Welcome to another Under the Influence podcast, proudly sponsored by the Together Store. Today we are under the influence of Joseph Dhafana and his story, all the way from arriving in South Africa with nothing to becoming one of Africa's top sommeliers and now a wine and gin brand owner. Really looking forward to this conversation. Enjoy. Joseph, welcome to the Under the Influence podcast in our secret cellar. It's really, really great to see you. How are you doing, man?
Oh, thank you very much, and I really greatly appreciate the fact that you find time to actually sit with me. It's an honor being here, really.
Oh, it's our honor. It's always good spending time with you, Joseph. I want to, we've all been through a lot over COVID, and it's certainly caused a great economic, recession, and we've all been struggling. But just to put things into context, this is not your first global economic recession. This is not your first struggle. Take us back to 2008. I mean, that's pretty much when the last economic crisis happened. I mean, fortunately, we didn't have a global pandemic at the time. Where were you in 2008, and what were you facing as an individual with your family?
Well, in 2008, that's when I was actually planning to leave Zimbabwe, and I eventually left Zimbabwe with my wife, as we thought that that was really the perfect time to leave, and we felt like the world was actually collapsing on our heads. So we decided to leave Zimbabwe actually without really planning much. So we left Zim and we came down to South Africa illegally, I would say. Then we stayed in refugee camps. We stayed in the streets of Johannesburg up until we came down to Cape Town, and here we are now, talking about wine.
It's incredible. I mean, it's an incredible journey that you took, and I think it puts things into context because so many of us, and it's all relative. There is struggle in business, in life, but what you've been through is just beyond what most people have had to endure. And what you've achieved is incredible. So take us back to, you've moved to the Cape, you've come into the promised land, over the Cape Fold Mountains, through the Karoo, and now, the beautiful Cape unfolds before you, running straight into becoming a sommelier, or, what happened to lead you to that point?
Well, I should say the world is got incredible opportunities, but then it all depends with how you want to tackle you want to get into the groove. It's got wide faces, I would say. And when I came down to Western Cape, I would say I was a gardener in Swartland, Rebecca still.
Okay.
So I was gardener for 2 years. And so I could actually look after different households, I would say, maintaining the lawn, planting the vegetables, and like it, etc., etc. So when I was actually busy with those, I got employed by Maynard Jubair, who was the owner of Baba Black Sheep restaurant then, to actually work in the garden. So I worked in the garden, backyard of the restaurant. And apparently there was a weekend when 2 ladies didn't pitch in the kitchen to wash the dishwashers, I would say. So he called me quickly with my fist full of mud. I went to the kitchen, jumped in, cleaned the plates and all that stuff. So he was actually happy with the way I actually worked that day, because I did a job which was actually being done by 2 people and I was alone. So then, fast forward, he asked me to work in the kitchen, and I turned down the offer because I couldn't actually stand the heat in the kitchen. But the shouting of the chefs and all that stuff, it didn't sit well with me.
Yeah.
So I kept on doing the garden job, and then the other day, the barman again didn't pitch for work. Apparently, actually, it moved on for looking for greener pastures. So I worked that weekend in the bar, not knowing even a simple cocktail, like literally nothing. Then he taught me everything again, and we smashed that whole weekend. We worked very well, and he sat down with me. By then he wanted to actually get me to be the permanent barman, which I agreed. So barman, then that was towards now World Cup in 2010 when South Africa hosted the Soccer World Cup. And so on the 7th of March, World Cup was in June. On the 7th of March 2010, that was my birthday. So he gave me a glass of Peter Creative Brut, bubbly. And I had actually never tasted wine in my entire life before then.
Yeah.
So I sipped and I didn't like it at all. I mean, that fizziness or the dryness, which I couldn't actually manage to then describe because I didn't have any like wine vocabularies then. So I just sipped and I didn't like it, but yeah, he kind of like saw the facial impression that Joseph probably didn't like it. But then the wine bug then actually, it actually hits me only two years after I tasted my first glass of wine. So in 2012, that's when I thought of studying wine, Stellenbosch. Then 2013 first certificate, 2014 that's when I started really wanting to have my own wine label. 2015 I came third in the wine tasting championships in South Africa. Then I went to France representing South Africa in the World Cup. 16 just more wine. 2017 I founded Team Zimbabwe. Then we went to the World Cup as a captain. 2018 I went big again as a captain, and we were number 14 out of 26 countries.
Wow. For a country that doesn't produce much
for
wine.
Sure. It was really something. It was such a great achievement, I must say. That's 2019. That's when I was crowned Eat Out Best Sommelier of the Year. And 2020 just COVID. I mean, it's really something else. But yeah, that's pretty much the
amazing journey.
The whole journey in brief. And without forgetting that in 2015 also, that's when I started to be a wine judge with Microfusion Academy, which works with University of Cape Town. So yeah,
I think it's an important story to tell. For us working in Africa, you see that story quite often in terms of someone who works back of house, whether it be in the garden or in the kitchen, and then the opportunity to work front of house. It's quite scary. You basically put in front of guests, but then there's that wonderful link between obviously you getting paid to do your job, but then if you do your job well, if you engage with guests, there's that immediate bonus system called the tip.
Yeah, for sure.
Was that a major incentive for you to also build your knowledge because it could give you that ability to engage with guests?
Of course, yes. Look, there is lots of responsibilities when you're working with the guests. I mean, you're going to have to actually tackle so many issues and problems on the floor. And I would want to mention that meeting guests, it's not just like 10 guests you meet. Like, for example, at the moment where I'm working now, I meet about 1,000 faces every week. Wow. Different people, from all walks of life.
Wow.
So yes, gratuity or tips really helps a lot, or actually helped me a lot, because that actually added a little bit to the budget, because obviously when you're studying you need to pay for the studies, and also you need to look after the family, because that time it was such a tough call. I remember vividly that there was a time when my wife didn't want to even talk to me, because I could use that little money which we had, or which we were actually getting from the garden in the restaurant, to support our families back home, and our son was back home, then our rental, food here, then now I wanted to study. So it was really catch-22 situation, but then we sailed, we managed to go through that, and now water under the bridge, we're celebrating.
That's incredible. Well done, Joseph. And I think that the fact that a lot of people don't see that side of things, where for many Zimbabweans working in South Africa, you automatically think it's an opportunity for themselves, their immediate family within South Africa, but actually the support network. I mean, there's companies that have been built to basically send funds back to Zimbabwe. It's a whole network of support that's provided. So that creates an extra challenge to, in terms of your own budget and your own ability to invest in yourself. So well done for scrimping and scraping, and I hope that your wife has forgiven you by now.
Indeed, yes, she's the happiest of them all. I think she's really, and she's actually looking back to where we're coming from or where we came from. She, it's like watching a movie. I would say
Yeah.
our life is just something which we kind of like really admire the most, because when we were sleeping in the streets of Johannesburg, we never actually dreamt of really sleeping on a nice bed, eating with a fork and knife, sleeping under proper roof, or driving a car. But again, like I said, determination breeds success. I mean, if you really determine to something, give it all, put more hours, effort, and everything, you'll get it.
Yeah, and a lot of your story is taking those opportunities. It's like the understudy to a great fly half, and that fly half gets injured. You've got to take the gap. Whether it's in the garden, in the bar, as a sommelier, in business. I mean, all those elements of your journey. So the other side of hospitality, which I always find really wonderful, is the people you meet, and the ability to engage with guests. So, I always talk about wine as being this kind of language that's spoken internationally. Obviously, we need to engage with guests in their language, or hopefully they speak English or whatever it might be. But the other language that underlies that in hospitality is often wine.
For sure.
Because you can engage with an American guest about Californian wine or their interest in Bordeaux, and then you can connect them back to Stellenbosch potentially, in terms of like Cabernet Sauvignon that they might enjoy from California. How did that engaging with guests help you in your career? I mean, you met some really instrumental people at Bar Black Sheep in Riebeek Kasteel.
Well, I just like the fact that you mentioned wine is a language on its own. It's actually a universal language in that way. You really get to engage with people from all walks of life, and you can travel to all over the world while it's actually it's one place, like through the glass or through what's in your glass. Meeting people really helps a lot, because you get to understand and learn different cultures, and also to equip yourself with their culture. You fit in their bracket in different ways. Like if you get someone who is from California or Napa Valley, they enjoy this slightly extracted or heavily extracted Cabernet Sauvignon, all that stuff. So then when they come this side, they would want to drink something which is a bit similar, of course. Then you're going to have to think out of the box and pick a wine which they will also enjoy, without actually also not forgetting they also want to try something which is actually unique to South Africa, like say Pinotage or something like that. So it really helps, really like a lot, to engage with people from different corners of the world, and it opens so many doors people don't realize.
It's it's certainly one of the reasons that we started our business was through meeting some of the guests who asked to buy wine at the Roundhouse, and then suddenly you've got a wine business, and it's amazing how these things flow.
Connect,
So you then you're in Riebeek Kasteel, Bar Black. I mean, I remember going there. The bar faces the restaurant.
Yes.
So I do remember engaging with chefs and bars. So I'm sure at that stage, because I just remember the team there being so friendly and engaging. So it was definitely our first meeting, even though we didn't realize it at the time. How did you then move? Because that's basically a weekend spot, great wine, great food, but not necessarily like a culinary destination like La Colombe. How did you take that step into the hallowed halls of a fine dining restaurant like La Colombe?
So in 2011, I left Baba Black Sheep Restaurant for 6 months to Cape Town. I went to Aubergine Restaurant, and
worked with Harold.
Harold Precious Smith. So I worked at Aubergine as a barman, purely because I just wanted that fine dining experience, like to see how they operate, like how fine dining restaurant operates. So my 6 months there really helped me a lot, in the sense that it actually awakened my mindset in terms of wine tasting side, because we could taste so many wines at Aubergine. And also I learned how to, like, the etiquette side of service in a fine dining restaurant. So that really helped me a lot. So I went back to Ruby Castile. The then Black Sheep restaurant had changed ownership, and the lady who bought it then wanted me to run it like front of house, kind of like managing in a way, which I did. And then when I was actually busy working there, that's when I met again this one, like we mentioned about really meeting people. That's when I met a friend, David Cope, yes. Then he was like, there is a restaurant in Cape Town. I mean, I think you could be a very good fit in this restaurant, or you could fit actually very well in this restaurant. There was DME. Then DME, now I think it's Tory, or they changed names. So I went there. There was a fine dining spot between DME, the ground floor, and Ching Ching, which is rooftop. There was what they could call a white room.
I remember that, yeah.
It could only sit like 28 to 30 people. I worked in there. That's when I really started to work as a sommelier, with a tie on and everything, fine dining, and I really enjoyed it, that very, very much.
And they had a really interesting wine list as
yeah,
far as
for
I remember.
sure, really.
Yeah, definitely influenced by David.
Yeah, too. And the owners really travel a lot. They were like Spanish wines, French wines, you name them. So when I was still there, I went for a trade tasting in Observatory at the Fig Restaurant, close to the River Club, I think. Well, that was 2014 now. So when I arrived there, remember when you're tasting wine in a room, you always like pick your name tag and place it on your chest or wherever. So I'm busy tasting wines there with the ladies from DME, Pida and Rumbi. And then there was this French lady who just came to me, poked me, hey, Joseph. Yes, I'm Joseph. I mean, I've been looking for you for a very long time. I heard things about you. Then I started panicking like I'm new in Cape Town, and this lady is really like jumping on me. What's happening? And so she handed over a card to me. She said, please call me. It was on a Friday. She said, call me before Monday. And I called her for sure. I called her during the weekend and we spoke. She requested to have a meeting in Constantia, which we actually had. So when I arrived at this meeting, she converted that coffee meeting to an interview of a job which I didn't apply. And she was the manager at La Colombe restaurant. Her name was Jennifer Ushe. So then she pulled this big wine list. So like, Joseph, look, please don't be intimidated. I would like you to trim this wine list, make it that one which you can actually work with, remove some wines, put on some wines which you really want. Then I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not looking for a job. I'm employed. I'm happy where I am, and I'm not really looking for a job. Apart or other than that, I don't think I can be a perfect fit to work in your establishment because I'm not really trained. I'm still new in the industry. She was like, no, I'll teach you, Anyway, the meeting went well, but we didn't agree on anything, nothing. Then she called me again a week later for another meeting. Then she was like, is it about money? What is it about? I mean, please, I really want to have you in our team. Then we spoke up until we agreed on something. Then I had to resign my job where I used to work at DME. Joined La Colombe in October 2014. Yeah, 26 October 2014, yes. So then the wine list was big. And I had it was like a Bible. Yeah. So I had to trim it and to work with wines from all over Western Cape, of course, really try to cater for every wine growing district or region, I would say. So I remember vividly, I was helped with Denis Carré, the French guy. We had 2 good days of working, sleepless nights, trying to trim the wine list, which we managed, and I presented it back to Jennifer, and she was happy. And when I joined La Colombe, the first three months, I lost 5 kilos. It was tough, tight, and I almost quitted my job. You know, I always
working that floor.
Yeah, I had spirit like I'm gonna have to keep on pushing. Yeah, I almost quit it because it was really, really, really tough for me. It was quite challenging, new to this fine dining establishment, and yeah, I didn't have anyone to ask. I mean, look, the staff were really friendly and all that stuff, but then they were expecting more from me because be appointed as a sommelier or head sommelier of Black Room restaurant, you already have that respect from the rest that you know, pretty much know, not really everything, but much about the wine. So they could come to me and ask. And remember,
So
I was
Joseph,
yeah,
and you
I
come
was, and I was a bit raw.
Yeah.
So I kept on learning. Then I started with WSET, kept on academy, kept on pushing. And recently Court of Master Sommelier, that was 2-3 years back, I think. And yeah, so you can never stop learning. And like we mentioned earlier, meeting people really opens so many doors, you know. Yeah, so that's really how...
It's incredible how, I mean, you fought for opportunities, and then it's the way of life where sometimes opportunities come your way because of that. And it was almost like you were the sort of, the proverbial dog that had chased the tire of the car, and then suddenly you caught it. And now what do you do with it? And what I love about the story is how you then reinvested in yourself, because it would have been possible to also, pocket the earnings and not necessarily go and invest in all the WSETs and the courts of master sommelier, but you went and did that to make sure that your knowledge was matched what you wanted in terms of guest experience. So congrats on doing that, Joseph, because it is that's a significant investment, hey, all that studying.
No, thank you so much. Yeah, really, it's the good thing about wine is once you get that first certificate, you don't want to stop. You want to keep on pushing. There was a time when I said, no, I think this is enough now. I don't want to keep on piling the certificates. I need to do something else, something different. But then you see a wine book, you want to read about it, then you browse on internet, then you hear this institution offering a certain course, then you want to go. It's just like it keeps on going. It's something which never stops. And until now, I still want to learn more.
Yeah.
Because you can never actually have to reach a point whereby you say, I have actually enough knowledge about wine. It's impossible.
Yeah, there's a great it's called the Kruger-Dunning effect, where early on in your career you realize that you don't know much.
Yeah.
Then you learn a little bit, and then you think you know a lot.
Yeah.
But then if you keep learning, you actually realize how little you
Yeah, true.
And if you get to that point where you continuously realize how much you still have to learn, it's a wonderful way to grow, because you're going to keep learning, you're going to keep growing, you're going to keep investing in yourself. So well done, man. Yeah, but the cool thing about wine, it's you can hit the books, but you can also hit the glass.
Yeah.
So that's what I would love to do now. It's just to start talking about that next chapter that you took, and maybe we can taste your Sauvignon Blanc just to start talking about that chapter.
Yeah, for sure. So wine is really. So we all have stories to tell, and that's why you see guys like Denzel Washington. They're telling their stories through acting movies. Diana Ross through singing, and winemakers, they really tell their stories through this art in the glass. So there's always a story to tell behind the label. That's what I always really tell people. And wine is art. It has to be really treated as something which is very, very precious, I would say. Most people, especially in Africa, we tend to think, or I used to think that, or it's perceived to be known as rich people's drink, which is not correct. Yes, it was like that then, but then we transformed that, and we're still in the process of really trying to make sure that even an average person like me can be able to sit down, have a meal, whatever it is, agura, sadza, pap, millipap, with your stew. You can still enjoy a glass of Cabernet Sauvignon, a glass of Syrah, a glass of Sauvignon Blanc, or a glass of Chenin Blanc. So in 2014, that's when I started Mosi Wines.
Yes.
So let's start from the label itself. So Mosi is to shorten Moso ya Tunya, which means the smoke that thunders, which is the famous falls in Africa and in the world at large. That's why you see
The gorge.
the Victoria Falls there. So that will be your Zambian side. This is Zimbabwean side. So water is flowing from Zambia to Zimbabwe. So why the label? That's the umbilical cord between myself and my country.
Amazing.
That's it. Then you get to see again that all the products which we make, they are named after family members. From gin is actually, gin is for the whole clan called Wamambo. That's our totem. Then Chenin Blanc is Tinashe, my son. Sira is actually my dad, Flavian, who passed on in 2003. And is the one who taught me all the ropes, like in terms of working very hard. He actually told me that a gentleman's day should be at least 16 hours minimum. And I still do that every day. Then there's bubbly coming. I had to mention it's going to be Amelia, my wife, that's coming in September.
Perfect.
So all white labels, this will be your, I hate saying entry level, but this will be like more of your beginners to get to the premium side, which is going to be under charcoal label. So Mapopoma means the falls. It's a Shona name, means the falls. So this Sauvignon Blanc is actually from Walker Bay, Gabriel's Clove Vineyards, and quite cool climate. We really, of course, harvested this vineyard by hand, definitely. And the wine spent 10 months in stainless steel tank and 6 months on the lease. That's where you get a bit of more structure and character from.
Lovely.
And it's quite clean, as you may see, a bit of more mineral, tropical fruits there, a bit of guava, some citrus undertones, fig, a bit of tomato leaf. Very clean palate as well, with balanced acidity. There's no oak at all in this one.
Oh, beautiful. So, Joseph, I love what you were talking about there in terms of, story and, connecting to that umbilical cord to your home. And the Victoria Falls has got that incredible energy to it. It's also one of my favorite places on earth. The journey as a sommelier to share stories with guests, I think one of the things that I sometimes struggle with in wine is that you can go really hardcore into the science and the technicalities, and sometimes sommeliers, if you look at that movie, that Somm movie, it's like very, like the acidity and the pH and the this and then that and the malolactic fermentation, the carbonic maceration. That's really important, but the storytelling side of things from a guest perspective, connecting the people and the place behind the wine to the guest, just on that small interaction where you can get a feel for who they are. I mean, that's a really important part of the art of being a sommelier, right?
Yeah, for sure. Look, I mean, like I once mentioned, I mean, it's a very good bridge. Wine is a very good bridge to actually put dots together or connect people from different, I would say, cultures. It's actually very good to enjoy a glass of wine while you still listen to the story. And most people really get to understand and appreciate a product after being told who makes the product or who makes the wine. I would say where was the vineyards or where are the vineyards grown and who actually looks after the vineyards. So storytelling gives a bit of more spices to someone getting to really appreciate and understand wine. I mean, like I said, it's actually it's poetry. It's a story in a glass, which you're gonna have to enjoy slowly and really regurgitate and get to engage to. It's like you're gonna have to have a conversation with the glass. That's what I do.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You have to speak to the glass, to speak to the wine, and up until you really get to understand it.
Yeah. And it's a wonderful connection also to Africa, because I do believe Africa is the home of storytelling. You just think of sitting around a fire together wherever you are, having a braai or sitting around a fire in the bush. That's where stories come out, under the stars, away from Netflix, away from just this sort of being fed all these, kind of ongoing episodes of whatever one's binge watching at the moment. But the real stories in life are with people. visiting great places, and those are reflected in the glass, as you say. And I really like that, and it's something that I completely believe in, and that's why it must be so rewarding to reflect who you are, your personality, your story, your family, and honor your family members and your place through your wines. It must feel really good.
Sure. I mean, one day, I just pray that one day I'll be able to visit most of these African countries, sit down under the tree or under the stars, like you mentioned, really telling stories and really enjoying a glass of wine. I think it's something which no one had actually deprived this from us, but then we just thought we can afford, or is certain group of people which should be drinking wine, which is not true. So with lots of people I'm meeting in my life, including you in particular, we're gonna have to travel. We're gonna have to make this happen. If we don't do it, no one is gonna actually do it. We may write it down, but then we're gonna have to practice it. We need to go to these villages. We need to go to these cities. We need to educate them, about the wine. That's the only way, again, we can actually get revenues as winemakers. Because if you don't educate someone, how is it possible for that person really to go and pick up a bottle of wine in the wine shop?
100%.
You need to educate them first.
Yeah.
They get a better understanding. Then they actually, wow.
Yeah.
I think there's something.
And I think, we need to, Africa comes from this like trading background where wine is a commodity. We're going to let's trade a cheap wine into Lagos because it will sell. Yes, that can work, but it doesn't honor the customer base.
Yeah.
It doesn't do anything to grow the value chain. So you have to go into the continent or any market really and invest in education and invest in experience, because if you think about the journey of wine, where we all started drinking wine, it's definitely at the bottom of the ladder.
Yeah.
But as you climb the ladder, you can't go back down. The rungs fall away below you. So, one of the great starter wines is Tassenberg. And I used to make a spaghetti bolognese for my student digs, many of whom were actually all were Zimbabweans. And they were not necessarily the greatest sort of wine drinkers, more Cane and Mosi.
Yeah.
But it was the first ritual. I took a water jug, decanted it a few times to open it up, and that was the start of the journey. And I still drink Tassenberg now, but you do climb the ladder.
Of course, yeah.
I certainly don't go back all the way down to those wines that I might have drunk as an early student. But that's the beauty of it, because if you can migrate a wine drinker up the ladder, they're not only going to not go back down the ladder, but they're going to educate and share it with their... and these wines have a bigger impact. You pay more for the grapes. There's more positive impact for the farmers, for the farm workers, for the whole winemaking, for the labels. The whole value system basically is like a tide that rises if you invest in that education. So we're 100% on the same page. Right, so let's should we move on to the Chenin?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, well done. This is beautiful, very fresh, very clean.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how it evolves as well. I think it's going to keep showing better and better.
Let's just rinse our
Yes, no problem.
Sauvignon Blanc is quite aromatic.
It is.
It's a bit more potent in terms of these aromas. So
let's get the Chenin a whirl. Thank you so much.
So Chenin Blanc, 2019 vintage, Swartland. This is actually from two different parcels, 30-year-old bush vine block and 38-year-old bush vine block, Rebecca Steele. So these vineyards I actually managed to put my hands on them through Chris and Andrea Maligno.
Amazing.
Very kind people. So
you met them. They were like back, basically behind the bar at Bar Black Sheep.
Yeah, for sure. So the story between or behind myself and Chris and Andrea Maligno is in 2008 when I moved from Zim to South Africa. That's when they started their company.
I remember.
in '08.
Yeah, I remember them standing at a Winex showing 3 wines and very like humble. You know how Winex is just a simple table and tablecloth, and all 3 wines got 5 stars. I think it was that, it was something like that, and just from very humble beginnings, and now look at where they are, and look at where you are.
Really, some of the best winemakers in the Southern Hemisphere, really known worldwide. So so this one. So back to the Sauvignon Blanc, I think we made only 1,200 bottles. This we had like just under 4.5 bottles. I really value and like to work with these 2 grape varieties from Swartland purely because of the terroir, in terms of soil, climate, and everything. Swartland really is good for Chenin Blanc and Syrah. Yes, it's home, but the 2 grape varieties doesn't mind heat and cold weather. Because winter sometimes that side is really cold. So this one spent 10 months in the barrel, and all old oak, like second and third fill barrel. It screams more of your stone fruits and quite mineral, a bit of like bruised, a bit of quince.
Yeah.
Marzipan in a way, very good mineral content or components there, and the oak integration is just amazing. Really, the balance between oak and acidity is just it's
got such an enticing nose, hey, like that fruit and that marzipan element, almost like a orange peel as well,
orange peel, nectarine,
but very fresh. It's
got very good depth. Again, lingering acidity, more citrus notes on the middle palate, and it's got such a great conclusion. It's multi-dimensional. That's what I can say. Really, I think
it's that incredible ripeness that the Swartland achieves with the acidity.
Yeah.
Where's that acidity coming from? Is that like the bush vines kind of hiding under the?
So with bush vines, firstly bush vines and old vines, like if a vine is over 25 years and above, it gives exactly what it takes from the soil. So what you get from the soil goes straight to the vine and into the berries. Then if you don't really play around too much or put more makeup in the wine, it will go straight in the bottle, then in your glass. You know, it's natural acidity. There's no added acidity in this one, and also naturally fermented. The alcohol is 12.5% on this one.
So elegant.
Really, like I would like to think that 2019 was such a great vintage overall, all over Western Cape, I would say. And we managed to really make really good wines.
It's also such a great story for me how, this neglected grape, these neglected vines, when you growing grapes for a co-op back in the day, you just want tonnage and you're not getting much money, you don't want to reinvest. So all these, it's like these opening a garage of old classic cars that haven't been seen for 30 years, and then but there's a huge amount of work that goes into composting and caring and sort of re-energizing these vines, but the character is just wonderful. And I think that's definitely been, Chris and Andrea, one of their great successes has been identifying these vineyards. Something where you fly past on the N7, but you see them up on the hills. So have you got access to these blocks for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, for sure, for quite some time.
That's great.
And 2021, we managed to actually put our hands on another block as well, more on the Castilsic side. It's also quite old bush vine block. We harvested from that vineyard as well, which is 39-year-old, which means it was planted in 1982, which is my age. So I really like to work with bush vines purely because that's how I was actually raised or taught with Ibn Sadi, Chris Maligno, Baden-Horst and them. So I think it was such a perfect fit of me really getting into Swartland first than any other place in Cape Town.
Yes.
Because I was actually surrounded with the vineyards and very good people who were making, like, that's when Swartland Revolution was actually kind of like founded, and I was in the middle of it. So I learned a lot from those guys to an extent of really wanting also to, not to be like them because I can never be like them, but then to have something which is quite close to what they do. You know what I mean? So,
but that's, I mean, it's another part of your umbilical cord because you were connected to Riba Castile, and yeah, I think it'd be a good journey one day to sit on your veranda of your cellar or your home in River Castile, Joseph. Who knows?
Hopefully, who knows? I mean, it's gonna happen. I mean, like I said earlier, you're gonna have to put your effort and everything for you to reach somewhere. My dream is to own a vineyard in Zimbabwe.
Yes.
In the Eastern Islands, like Honde Valley, there about
Honde Valley, yeah.
Yeah, the Vumba Mountains. I think that area you can easily get. You can actually plant some Chenin Blanc, some Syrahs there, even Sauvignon Blanc. I think it can actually do very well.
It's very cool up there.
It's cool, yeah. It's very cool. Yeah.
I mean, they're successfully growing wine in Ethiopia. Kenya's also got some nice highland. I think the key thing there will be to just figure out which clones and which exact locations.
Yeah.
Because it's the summer rain that gives us so many headaches as grape growers.
Yeah, well, really. I mean, you mentioned Ethiopia. I once or twice went to Ethiopia and enjoyed their Chardonnay from Rift Valley. I think.
Yeah.
Really good Chardonnay. I was not even expecting to. I thought maybe they're good with coffees, but then, they also make decent wines. Really good wines. I mean, Zim also makes some wines. Sadly, not a lot or not good enough. But then I think it's just something which needs to be revived.
It's learning. I mean, we've had like over 300 years in South Africa. And obviously, the Mediterranean, France, those countries, those areas have had much longer.
Of course.
But it's super exciting. So I go through cycles of drinking grape varietals, and which is strange for me, I've been kind of in a Sauvignon Blanc phase, and I'm now firmly back in the Chenin camp. So because of this wine, it just reminds me of what I love about Chenin. So I definitely need to pick up a few cases from the back of your bucky before you leave.
No, sure.
Well done.
By all means, thank you so much. We can easily...
Really special.
So you see at the back of all the labels, you get my code there.
Yes.
Which actually got from someone unknown. So in water, you see your own reflection. In wine, you see the heart of another.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And these labels have actually got some interesting technology, I believe. Hey? So there's an app that you can like...
Yes. So there's an application called Label in Motion, one word. You just download it from an app store. From your app store, sorry. Then you focus as if like we do with Vivino. But then it will take you virtually to Victoria Falls. Then you see the fish eagles, you see the water flowing. You will actually hear my voice as well.
That's great.
Yeah, it's really something remarkable, which was done in Germany with this common, which I collaborated with. Yeah. Well, you see, we have the pleasure of cleaning our glasses with wine.
That is a very privileged position to be in.
So now we move on to Flavian Syrah 2018. That's my dad.
Tell me about your dad. So I think you and I are very influenced by our fathers in a very positive way. I'd love to hear about his influence on you. So Flavian was a great gentleman, I must say. He was you get a chief, then sub-chief, and a headman. So he was a headman. He was a leader in our society. I could see him really trying to unite people if they have differences. Because if you have differences in your community, you get to see the headman first before you go to the sub chief and the chief for you to resolve your problems. So at home, I could see him really doing wonderful work, and he was a farmer, and he could wake me up around 3-4 a.m. Get to we use ox-drawn plows back home, so we could actually go to the crow, put your ox on the yokes, then get in the field, and around 6ish, then I could actually leave them, keep on they could keep on plowing. Then I go to the river, wash myself, back home, then eat whatever is there, my uniform, then to school. Gee.
So that was the life. And I never actually managed to ride a bicycle. We didn't have much money to buy even a bicycle for me to ride to school. I could walk to and from like 20 k's and back.
Is this near Vic Falls area?
Primary and secondary. No, this is in the Midlands, like
Oh,
close to
okay.
Masvingo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
I only
okay.
visited Victoria Falls last 2 years ago.
Okay, correct.
Yeah. So he really taught me all the ropes, and he was like, if you really want to be someone in life, you're gonna have to put it, or you're gonna have to sweat for you to enjoy your life. Sweat is always sweet, and all those things. So I just thought of really honoring him by putting his name on the label.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you personally are living his legacy, but it's a wonderful sort of nod that you've given him to honor his legacy in wine. And yeah, as you say, like wine, it's, you know, you can see the heart of another, and you've definitely been able to do that through your wines and capture the heart of your dad and your mom and everyone that has been a part of your journey and contributed to not just the sub chief but the chief that you've become, Joseph. It's fantastic, man.
you.
So let's crack in. So this is a Syrah, hey?
So this is Syrah 2018 vintage. I mean,
Beautiful.
17-year-old trellis define.
Okay.
Fairly young, but not really very, very young. So in this one, we obviously, of course, again, harvest by hand. And it's got 25% new French oak, then second and third for 15 months.
Okay.
So it's quite perfumey, more violet, typical Swartland Syrah, which you get. Then leather and spice, slightly cloves there as well. A bit plummy.
It's got that very elevated nose, but then underlying it is that sort of like the more heavier kind of notes. It's that spice.
Such a great dry entry, a bit more plummy. Again, you pick that leather, west forest floor.
Very fine tannin, eh?
Very, very fine and subtle tannin. It's not really heavy at all. Now, this is really something which I always wanted to achieve. I didn't want to make a big Shiraz, you know.
Which was what the original Swartland Shirazes were. I mean,
exactly. Up until this Swartland Revolution guys actually changed everything from feeling like you're licking the barrel to really feeling like you're drinking wine, you know, so something light and elegant, which shows a bit of more finesse and which speaks of the terroir itself. You know, wine is made in the vineyards. I mean, what you do in the cellar is something which is not really very important. What's important is to look after the vines. Yeah. Whatever you get from the vineyard into the cellar, it will actually go straight to the glass. So.
And that's a good connection to your farming roots, you know, with your dad as well. Yeah,
so it's really, and natural yeast was used. I mean, there's no much makeup in this one. What you see is what we get. Yeah. And 2018, we made just over 3,000 bottles. But then we're going to move to the new vintages soon. So from 2014, when we started with a barrel of Chenin Blanc and a barrel of Syrah, which was 300 each, until today, we moved from those 600 bottles to close to 15,000 bottles.
That's incredible.
To that, so we do have probably enough.
So that must be, so that jump from, you know, being involved in the Somm world, where was that hook? You know, what was that first wine that came about, and how did that happen? You know, because you basically came from a hospitality background and working front of house and, you know, creating engineering wine lists and guest experiences as a sommelier. How did you take the jump into starting your own brand?
That was in 2013. So I volunteered to help Chris and Adrian Maligno harvest.
Okay, great.
It was so tough. So we left home, I think, around 4 a.m. thereabout, and we in Paderberg. Spent the whole day there just drinking water and without eating anything. It's tough. And I remember vividly that I went back home around 11 p.m. So when I saw the whole process, it was really quite difficult and hard. But then again, I was enjoying it. You know, there's no better pleasure you get when you get to do what you like or what you're passionate about. You know what I mean? It doesn't really... It doesn't look like you're working. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, it's fun. Like these days when I'm on the floor pouring wine, talking about wine, it's like I'm just doing nothing. Yeah. But hence we're working. So when we did all that, Chris and Andrea were like, yeah, making wine is not really that difficult. I mean, obviously you can even do it. You can actually make one barrel or something like that. Then I did that the next vintage.
Wow.
That's when I made Chenin Blanc and one barrel of Syrah.
So once again, the opportunity sort of, the little door opened and you just wedged yourself in there.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's quite humbling actually when you are involved in a harvest, because you realize just how hard it is as in the world of wine. I mean, harvesting bush vines especially is an absolute nightmare. Your back is basically broken. Trellis is a little bit easier.
Yeah, supposed to be standing.
And then that whole process is the culmination of months of work in the vineyard. And then you go into the cellar, make the wine, and then typically around May, June, you've got your first flight to go and sell wine all over the world. I mean, it's a crazy amount of work. But as you say, it's so rewarding. You don't necessarily feel like you are working.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I sometimes really get a bit emotional, especially when I get to hear or see that the farm workers or laborers don't get paid what they deserve, because those guys, with me really getting involved in benting, cutting the clusters and harvesting and all that stuff with them, it's just in the searing heat of Swartland, then you get to hear that they're getting paid like less than what they deserve. It's just not right. Really, it's not right in every person's book.
Yeah.
Like it's not good, but it's not happening anymore. I mean, they're getting actually paid very, very well. I never thought at some point I could actually fly to overseas.
Yeah.
Really for the sake of my wines, but now I'm actually flying overseas. I'm flying to countries to really go present my wines. I mean, again, it also comes back to determination, really. If you know what you want, go for it. And you get, I mean, Africans, we really known for wanting to know more and wanting to get more than what we have, which is actually a very good thing. We've got so many things, and so the continent is very wealthy, you know.
Yeah.
And we privileged to have like everything close to us, and we've got land, so we need to utilize and use it. Yeah.
Awesome, Joseph. Well, I just wanted to, really say well done on what you've achieved in your journey. I met you on one of those trips. It was in Kenya with Deanne, and it's just such an honor to know you and work with you. And really importantly, you've kept your head down. You've worked. You've taken opportunities. But you've also, without knowing it, really become an inspiration for so many people in the industry. The industry across Africa in terms of hospitality, wine, it needs uplifting. It needs investment. It needs individuals who can grow themselves and find opportunities for themselves. The industry needs to create more of them, which is something that we're very interested in working on together. And I'm really in awe of what you've achieved. And we look at COVID and what we've all been through, but man, COVID is nothing for you compared to what you where you've been and what you've achieved. So we were all having our crises, but you were like, well, it's fine. I've been there, done that. I'll just get through this.
Yeah, for sure. Really, it's been an honor to be actually chatting to you, tasting my wines, inspiring the other people. Sorry, it's really, really, really an honor being here with you.
Awesome, Joseph. Well, I look forward to many more of these meetups, and also excited to unveil some of the projects we're working on together in good time, which will, I believe, have a great impact in terms of uplifting the continent, the world of wine, the world of hospitality. But in the meantime, let's enjoy the rest of this glass. Cheers.
Thanks for having me.
Cheers.